Everyone. Welcome to our Threads of Change, empowering social workers and students all over the Caribbean, all over the world, to be able to come together and to work together. I am your host, Dr. Sharon McKenzie, and we're excited to have you join us for this transformative journey. Our mission is to inspire and to equip social workers to become champions of change, advancing their careers and enhancing their community and enriching their lives. Join us as we dive into engaging conversations with social workers, advocates, change makers, exploring the challenges they face, the victories they celebrate, and the impact that they're making and creating. But we're not just here to talk, but also that we're hoping from the information that we provide that we will take action together as community. Together, let's build a community where the voices are amplified, where learning is continuous, and where change is not just a possibility, but a reality. Whether you are a social worker or just someone passionate about making a difference in people's lives, Threads of Change podcast is just for you. Check out our Instagram page at UWI Mona Science Social Work Unit to keep updated. And so again, I welcome you. My name is Sharon McKenzie. I am a lecturer at the University of Mona campus in the West Indies. And this is actually our season 2. So we're very excited for this new season, and we have a lot coming to share with you. I am particularly excited about this particular episode because it's a topic that's dear to my heart. And we have 2 wonderful speakers who are going to be sharing their life stories and their experience of dealing and taking care of their family as caregivers. The title, The Sandwich Generation, Caring for Parents and Children, will prove to be a personable and informative session and episode. Our 2 guests, I want to thank them for coming and sharing and taking the time out of their busy schedules to really explain and to share some of the experiences. And I'm really hoping that, that we all will learn something to walk away from. What a beautiful video to open our session of showing the love, showing also the hard work that's involved with caregiving, but also showing the love and compassion that comes through. Before we dive into our topic of conversation with our guests, I wanted to just highlight for you that this month is actually World Alzheimer's Month. And this month is actually dedicated to individuals who are living with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So I wanted to just highlight caregivers who are also caring for individuals with dementia and Alzheimer's. So please, if you are interested in having more information around dementia and Alzheimer's, to check out the website at Tahoe. And also we have our Mona and Aging Center in which you can get some information about dementia and Alzheimer's. All right, so let's just introduce to you our 2 guests today. Again, remember, this is a conversation. And so you will have opportunities to be able to send questions if you have any, so that way we can try our best to address whatever questions that you have. My first guest is my colleague, Arna Elliott-Rattray, sorry. She is a lecturer here at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. She is also our program coordinator. And I'm going to ask her when she does start speaking to just share a little bit more about herself. Our second guest is David Panton, and he is the Group People and Analytic, JMMB, is that right? And he will also share some additional information about his background and experience. Today, we're talking about a sandwich generation. Caregivers who are having to take care of both their children And they also have aging parents that they're having to take care of. Just a little bit of facts about sandwich generations. There's about 54% of individuals like ourselves who are quote unquote middle age, who are taking care of young children, but also taking care of parents. And oftentimes they're, in the 40s, 50-year-olds who are doing both jobs. Particularly for caregivers, a lot of times we throw out caregivers and we don't necessarily define what caregivers are. So those are individuals who are actually providing both emotional, physical, social support, oftentimes financial support to a loved one, or not even a loved one, a friend, a cousin, right? Someone who just happened that person ends up providing care to. And a lot of times there is not additional support. So it might be that one person that's providing the support, or it could be that there's a number of members in the family or a neighbor who's providing the support. Oftentimes we also throw out this thing about formal, informal caregivers. And for formal caregivers, often it's someone that you've hired, right? And you're paying that person to assist you. But most of the time, most of the caregiving that's being offered are informal caregivers, those who are unpaid, they're not being recognized, and they are given of themselves to provide care for this person, for this loved one. The other fact that we need to know is that, and really traditionally, women have traditionally been the caregivers. When you go all the way back into history, we talk about women being the ones who are providing the emotional support and the physical support. But of late, and there was a Pew study that just came out in 2022, where it's showing that we now have this shift that's taken place where we have males who are providing care. And so we're seeing this shift that's taken place. So it's not just on one gender, but it's actually both males and females who are providing the care. And so I thought it was very fitting to have David join us today so that he can share his perspective and his experience. So I wanted to start out with Arna. Is it okay if I address you by Arna and David? So I wanted to start out with Arna. If you can just give us a little background about yourself, and then maybe share with us who are you providing caregiving to?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm smiling, all right? So it's one thing to be on the opposite end of getting the questions, right? So it's wonderful to be here today, Sharon. I think my colleagues who are here and my friends know that this is something that is, can I say, very private to me, and very rare that I am kind of, well, not even rare. I've never shared it in such a setting, right? But I think as a social worker, there is a space for your voice, and especially when you can come from a place of lived experiences to help somebody else. So Sharon, when you said take a little bit about myself, no, you have to guide me, all right? I am Arna. I'm social worker. I'm lecturer. I am mommy to two wonderful children, Nikai and Najee. And I have the privilege of sitting in here today with my husband, who is in the audience. So I'm also a wife to a wonderful, extremely wonderful young man. I still can say young man. Craig, who is in here as well. And I think that's it. And if you know me, the title that I wear very dear to my heart is mommy. So I'm here and I am a part of the sandwich generation. Caregiving to my mom.
Thank you. David?
I'm David Panton. My substantive role right now is that I'm the group manager for people analytics. And it's a job in itself that looks after particularly the team members that I work with, right? And ensuring that they are performing how they can, and if needs be, we can offer them support to improve on their performance. At home, I have 3 wonderful sons, David also, Dan, and Dax, that I had with my wife, Kimberly Cook Panton. And in all of that, I also have to take care of my mom, who is also aging. So I can be considered a member of the sandwich generation, as we put it, because I guess we're both supporting on either side of the spectrum. Yes, I'm a member of the operation, I'm a board member of the Operation Save Jamaica, which looks after affected youths primarily in the inner city communities. You know, we have outreach programs. We try to raise funds to support them and their entrepreneurship ventures. And also, I ply my trade as a street pastor, which enables me to go into the streets of Kingston, 3:30 in the night, and meet with the wonderful Jamaicans and listen to them and hear their plight. So that's a little bit of me and what I do in my spare time and also in my productive time and also in my home time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start off. So what I'll do is ask the questions, and then you can take turns in responding to the questions. So the first one is, researchers suggest that the positive aspects of caregiving is tied to the quality of relationship between the caregiver and the care receiver. So what motivated you to take on the role of caregiver? And it can be for both, for the parents, well, for children, it's obvious, but particularly if you're looking at the caregiving of parents. Why you?
I'm going to defer to David first.
Okay.
And I was just about to say ladies first, you know. All right, for me, it's deeply personal, right? Growing up, I watched my single mother care for both us and her parents with such grace and resilience. And that example stayed with me. So when it was my turn, it wasn't just really a duty, but instead it was like an honor, a privilege, right? The care she gave me and the values that she instilled in me, the relationship that we built over the years was full of love, respect, and understanding. It made it natural for me to step inside this role. It wasn't always easy, but knowing that I'm there for her in a way she was there for me is incredibly fulfilling. And I am just grateful for the opportunity now to turn and then offload all of that learning that I inherited from my mother, seeing her. She also had 3 children and she had her mother living with her. So I had a front row seat of a strong woman just doing it with compassion, strength, resilience. You know, it was inspiring. So how could I have been so exposed to such demonstration of love, of outpouring of love, unconditional love, regardless of the circumstances? How could I not try to pass that on to my children? It would have been an indictment for me. So that was part of the motivation for me in terms of the quality of the relationship for the caregiver and the care receiver. And that was part of the motivation for me to turn around and do it for my children. So that's just my perspective on it.
I'm not sure if I missed. So are you the only child?
No, I said my mom had 3 children, just like
Right,
me.
that's right. Okay.
Yes, yeah. She has 3 children. So I have 2 sisters, right? And, you know, just having that front row seat, because similarly, I have 3 sons. So I know. And she was in significantly more trying circumstances, I might put that, and just the challenges that she hurdled, with God by her side, and just seeing how she went about it is very motivating. I mean, I I have I have a tremendous debt of gratitude for my mother. She means a lot to me, and she is the reason that inspires me to even go beyond the boundaries of my household and try to offer assistance to others. In time, sometimes people just want a listening ear, just to vent and so on. So these are the things that motivate me and put me out there, because despite all of that, my mom would also take in. I noticed that you mentioned earlier where sometimes the caregiving extends beyond just the parent and the child, goes to the aunts as well, because her aunt lived with us, goes to the cousins because my cousins lived with us at the time. And there was my mom in the center of it all, holding it all together. It's an experience that sticks with me for the rest of my life, and I just live a life of gratitude and appreciation that I had that experience, and just being capable to, do that for my children. Right.
And I find it interesting that, like you said, it's 3 children, 2 females, right? So the expectation really is that the caregiving should have fell on your sisters, when in actuality, you're the one who's taken on that role in a major way. So
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a role that I fully embrace. I mean, I don't run from it. I don't shy away from it. The opportunity that I have, you have to be cognizant that not everyone, especially in my age, they have their parents to show that level of gratitude to, right? And here I am every day, have the exposure to my mom, because, she supports me as well in many ways that you can imagine. And I'm here to give her the caring that she needs, maintaining her dignity, just the positive aspects of caregiving. It's unbelievable.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Arna.
Oh, Sharon. What motivated me to take on the role of caregiving? Short answer, I didn't have a choice. That's the short answer, right? So unlike David, who, I didn't have a choice. So, I mean, I hide my gray hairs very well, even though I'm trying to hide them. But I've been doing caregiving for this year, 33 years, right? It has morphed into different stages, phases, all of that. So I came to caregiving very young, right? Absolutely young. A little different from, I guess, how the average would start caring for their parent. So at the time, I didn't have a choice. You're caregiving, and you didn't even know that you're caregiving. That's from how far I'm doing it, right? You kind of walked into it, literally walked into it. You don't have a choice. I never had a choice. So for me, when you think of my journey with caregiving with now my mom, so it was 2. My father died 4 years ago, so it was 2 of them. No, I just have my mom. And with my mom, the memories of how she was and is, and I'm going to be cautious, right? Because in my lived experiences is her experiences as well. So, you protect everybody. But the memories I have of my mother is minimal. I don't have a lot of memories because of just how I came to caregiving, right? I'm what you would call a parentified child, right? So it started pretty early. And as I said, 33 years. And for me, my entire adult journey, my entire journey of mothering has been caring for my mother. I don't know any other way. I navigate the world as a caregiver. Got my first job as a caregiver. I did my degree as a caregiver. You got married as a caregiver. So it's been my life. I don't know any other way. So it's a little different. I think I'm gonna say that for some, you say what motivates you to become a caregiver. So I am, I guess, holding space for those of us who never had an option. It wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't a choice. This is just what is, and I accept that this is what is.
And I have to say to you that, I think several of us as your colleagues have said it to you that the strength that you walk with and carry, knowing the responsibilities of caring for a parent, a mom, who you have to provide full support, and then also in terms of providing care and balance for your children, and probably never really, probably like many young children who become caregivers of a parent, never really had an opportunity to fully experience being given care, being provided the care all around
Yeah,
that they need.
I mean, I embrace what you're saying. So that's the journey. That's the journey, that's the journey, right?
Mm.
So no choice. This is
Yes.
something happened. And I must also put into the midst in terms of caregiving. So, we all, me, perhaps David, and anybody else in the audience who's a caregiver, you caregive at different degrees, or your parent is into a different life situation. My mom's life situation is that she doesn't ambulate, so she cannot walk, right? She cannot walk. So if you can add that to the mix and kind of think about what caregiving looks like for that purpose, with navigating the journeys of my children's developmental stages of learning to walk,
Mhm. Mhm.
growing up, and doing it along. When I first, when I consented to you and, to Joe, I said to you that caregiving for me is being on a highway and it's going in two different directions and I'm in the middle. and somehow you have to go in both directions at the same time. And that's what the sandwich generation is for me. It is, I'm on the highway going to Kingston, but I also am going to St. Elizabeth. How do I do the two? And the two must exist and it must coexist. Sharon, we're talking about, I'm showing up today as a mom and a caregiver for my mother. But, in the introduction, I'm a worker and I'm a worker too, and I'm a wife too, I'm a friend too, So you think about being sandwich generation, but you have other different roles that you have to fulfill, unless you are born in a family with generational wealth, you have to work too. And sometimes, that comes with a whole different layer to the caregiving.
And we'll talk a little later on about the part of self, because you mentioned all those roles, but also caregiving to yourself is also part of that, right? So, I'll be curious to know some of the things that for both of you that you do for self around caregiving. So let's just switch a little. So, Arna kind of touched on it in terms of showing up as caregiver to mom and showing up to caregiver to your children. Is there, do you see similarity and differences in showing up and wearing those two that hat? Are there similarities and are there differences? David?
Sorry, let me make sure that I am unmuted. Right.
Mhm.
I am. Well, to put it into perspective, it's varying degrees of love, right? In one instance, you're guiding, protecting the future. You're looking towards the future, ensuring that you're instilling the right values, the morals, and the standards in the children. Whereas that is an expression of love in itself. And when you look at the parent side to it, you realize that by being supportive, you recognize that their age is diminishing, so you're more of a supportive, protective role for them. You know that sometimes health issues may arise, you want to be there to support them, right? So that in itself is another expression of love, because love is really what motivates you, right? It for you to look beyond yourself, you know. The Bible says, first you love God, then you love your neighbors as yourself. Your neighbors could mean even your children, even your parent that you're giving care for. And you recognize that there's some similarities, that it spans both sides of the spectrum. I support my children. I want to see them growing up and they see how I actually care for my parents. So there's that cross-dimensional aspect of love as well. Because just as how I was able to see my mom caring for her parents and caring for myself and my sisters and the rest of the family, I witnessed it. And it's like being able to see that manifest itself was a great opportunity for me. And so it's like it's transactional. You've gotten this love, and your your emotional gas tank is full now, you know. So it's like you want to give it out. And then you have three children which you love equally, three pieces of your heart just running around, right? And then on top of that, as Arna said, you know, she has her husband. I have my wife as well. So it's varying dimensions of love, you know, and the expressions of it. So there's a similarity in the connections of the love that you express to both your parents, and you know, one is filial. For your parents, that filial kind of love, it has due, you know, this honor to be able to serve them. And then to nurture, one is more nurturing to the children now, so that they can bring up. And they would see that now and then turn around, and when they have their families, right, they can demonstrate what they've learned, because they themselves have seen the expressions of love for to my wife in front of them in different ways, and my expressions of love to my parents, who they have the opportunity to interact with. And they are there. My mom is very much involved in their lives. And, you know, it's just a feeling of gratitude that overwhelms you when you see the cross transaction of love. Your children loving on your on your mom, and your mom loving on the children. It really warms your heart, you know. And these are the things that you appreciate in life, and you give thanks, you know, like, you know, God, that I have this opportunity. So I see there's much similarities, and the differences is just a different variation or an expression of the love.
Mhm. Okay.
Boy, Sharon,
Yes.
I asked you how honest I should be, you know. Let me go. If
And
you
and
know
and
me,
and let me say that you know, taking into consideration that you didn't have a choice, right? So the perspective might be, it might be a little different.
oh, it's different. Oh, it's different. It is different. And, you know, and nothing is wrong with difference, right?
Right.
We all
Exactly.
are part of the caregiving journey in different ways. And I think that's a takeaway from today.
Yeah.
Like, your caregiving journey is not going to mimic mine. And it's not
Yeah.
going to mimic yours, Sharon. It's not going to mimic,
Yes.
you know, Sean or anybody, right? But again, to know me is to know that I'm absolutely practical and real. And There's just a few things that I don't doctor up, I don't skirt around. It is what it is. And you know, this caregiving thing, you're talking about how different in terms of caring for my children and caring for my mother. It's absolutely two different spectrums for me, right? Both sides, as David said, is filled with absolute love and joy. Absolute, right? I don't think I could do this if I never had love and kindness in my heart. It wouldn't work, right? I think before I answer that, Sharon, permit me to say that I'm also going to be open to say that I've had to do the grief process, right? So some of what I'm going to say has to do with where I was, where I am. You do the anger, because a part of this has made me, I was very angry, right? I was very angry. This is not what the book says life should be. Come on now, our developmental books, our bio books did not give this chapter, right? You don't talk about it. This is not a conversation. You don't do it in, I don't want to say which exam to age me a little bit more, but you don't get this, right? It's not conversations you hold. So in my walk and in my space, for those who are near to me, and anytime persons ask me, I'm gonna be very open about this process, right? In caring for my mother, in the terms of nature of care, the role reversal situation is real. She is an adult. I am her child. She spent many years, you know, taking care of me. And then suddenly she had no choice in the situation, how she became needing us a little bit more than she would have liked. To know my mother is to know how powerful of a woman she is, how independent she was, how full of life she was. And then now for this little one who I birthed, you came from me, and I am to be taking directions from you. Absolutely different dynamic, right? She had a hard time accepting dependence, and that has morphed and changed, right? I'm gonna say that I took her from her home as well. So she lived in her home. When my father died, that caregiving thing had to take on a different journey. So she had to be living with me now. That's a whole different kind of tension. You're in my house, I have my house, my big woman, I have my house, but you can't, you have to have those conversations. There are periods of tensions that can be real. With my nature of care with my children, it's easier. I'm fostering independence. I'm watching them grow and blossom and have their identity. My mother had her identity, which was taken away. You know, so that's one way it's different. In terms of emotional dynamic, it's the same kind of thing. It creates tension that you are trying to do the best that you can for her, but she's an adult and you have to respect that, you know. Our profession, our social work profession tells us that we are to respect the dignity and worth of everybody. And let me tell you, that has been tested in my house. It's been tested because I'm saying this is what doctors say, this is what it says, and there is attention because she know what she know and she not change. And that's my mother. As much as how she can't ambulate, I mean, I think I have, I don't have a sisters, by the way. I am it. I am the sister. This is it. Nobody else. I don't have a sister. And yeah, let's leave that, right? And the same, so in terms of time, let me talk about time in terms of how different it is, Sharon. With my children, there's a certain developmental and predictable trajectory that life unfolds. They creep, they walk, they go to school. I cry that they leave the house. They're now in prep school. I'm looking forward to graduation. They're getting independence. They're moving away from me. I am not creating dependence. I am allowing them to do their life journey and watching them blossom in the beautiful human beings that they are, and they are independent. when it comes on to that kind of trajectory with my mother, there is uncertainty. There's not a trajectory. There's not a developmental thing that I can say, this is going to happen, that is going to happen, this is going to happen. It's not predictable. And that comes with a lot of emotions as well. That comes into a lot of conversations with my higher power, so that has been different in terms of even care identity. I am, and society bigs me up for being a good mother. You're up on the PTA, big up yourself. Your kids are doing well, big up yourself. Society doesn't reward me for being a good caregiver for my mother. It's not talked about. You are annoying to your organization. You have to spend 3 hours to go and look after your mother. What's that? I don't get it. You don't have, with my children and their health, you have a pediatrician. You carry a little passbook. Is passbook it named, Joanna? You carry a passbook, you get your immunization. It's predictable. My mother right now, I can get a call to say I have to go home because there's a life crisis happening, right? So for me, it's different. With my children, it's a little bit more planned, a little bit more, I can see where it's going. With my mom, I have to literally open my heart and my mind that you're kind of going on a journey, you don't know where the journey is going, but you're on the journey. But say, hey, let's go. But you don't know where you're going. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get there, but you're packed and ready, saddled to go. You don't know if you have enough resources to get there, but you're doing it anyway. It's an absolute walk of faith. Mm-hmm. It takes faith. Many times fear, but no faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate the sharing of that duality of, starting out with anger, because a lot of caregivers do go through that, particularly if it turns out that you're it, right? Whether if you have siblings and it does fall on you, and that you don't have a choice. And so then you're learning how to navigate some of these things. And sometimes you have caregivers who they ended up being it, but also they did not have a good relationship with mom or dad or whomever it is that they're caring for. And they're having to look past that. So the idea of starting with love, right? And caregiving from that space is really important. For those caregivers who, yes, they did not have a choice, that they do not have the support that's there for them. But starting with that space, and yes, it's a daily challenge. You have individuals who, like you said, the trajectory of knowing that dependency will probably increase, right? And what do I do about that? Do I have the resources? Will I be able to handle it financially? What kind of impact it will have on self? These are all real issues that one has to think about. And that's why it's important that we talk to each other and have conversations and listen to different ideas and strategies. Someone might have an idea and you try something and it actually works. These conversations are important to be able to have. David, did you want to add anything to that particular question, or just respond to what Arna said?
Right. Just listening to Arna, she really drove home the point of how it's significantly different. I am here from one perspective, and my experience with caregiving for my parent is more from a supportive role, right? That chances are they're in retirement, so whichever way that you can limit their dependence on their own or her own resources, you try your best to, right? And just hearing Arna explain her side of the story is like a completely different end to the spectrum. But at the end of the day, there's a love that is under, because there's no way possible she could have done that without the love in in her heart. Yeah, if you get what I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm just really in awe of what Arna went through, and I'm grateful that I occupy a different side of the caregiving spectrum. But nonetheless, I'm still really appreciative of the opportunity, but I'm also mindful of, you have to look at the future and see what is coming along the road and ensure that we're planning ahead for that, because the future must come and the future must be obtained. So, that is just one different dimension, and I'm appreciative of opening my eyes to that perspective, Arna. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so there is the perspective, but even for both your children and for your parent that you're caring for, of having to think about the financial burden that may come with doing that, both in terms of currently and then also in terms of the future. What will happen when you become older, or even what will happen as you start having grandchildren, and having that role again, because that's another role or responsibility, especially if you're trying to provide support to your children, right, as parents. And a lot of times we don't think about that. And as Arna has shared, that, people always acknowledge the fact that, yes, your children, they're doing well, but nobody really asks the question, do you need any kind of support? Do you need respite? Do you need a break? Right? So I wanted to go to that and ask, how do you manage the stressors? How do you manage, the emotional fatigue of trying to balance your lives, right? You're working, you have job responsibilities, you're mentoring, as for Arna, she's mentoring students, right? You're mentoring your children. How do you balance this? Arna.
What is balance? I don't know what that is. I'm still searching for the meaning of the word. Will not find it in my lifetime. I don't know what the word balance is, Sharon. I actually don't like the word balance as it relates to caregiving. I negotiate every hour, every day, every week, every month. I negotiate. What takes priority? Do I give 30-50? Do I give 70-30? I negotiate every day. You asked, what is it? How do I prioritize? How do I manage stress?
Mhm.
It's hard for me not to be honest, right, Sharon? So bear with
No,
me.
please be.
I cry, I cry some more, and then I cry for crying. Okay? I cry, and growing up, you are cultured that if you cry, you are weak, right?
Mhm, mhm.
I cry. I cry because I recognize that the good Lord has given me tears to soothe my heart and my sorrows, and it's healthy, right? So I might be making a little light of it. No, I'm not actually. I cry a lot.
Mhm.
I do cry, right? But how do I prioritize? I am open to my emotions, and that's it. I'm happy, I'm sad. I have the full range and breadth of emotions, and I'm open to them, right? I say it. So how do I prioritize? I negotiate. My kids are first, second, and third in that priority. Their life will not be affected by the role I play, right? That's number one, and it's not negotiable. I show up for my children. And if, those in the audience who know me know I show up. I am mommy, right? The little things that persons may are annoyed with mothering, I love it. I love it. I am the mother who will sports day, I will do sports day and then do the presentation for Sharon and Dr. Simpson, right? I'm showing up, I'm being present. How do I prioritize? Again, it's negotiating, right? It's negotiating. You're talking about how do I manage? In this audience, I have at least 3 women, right, who have been, I don't know, a rock, a mountain, Blue Mountain. I have one in the audience who has been my ride or die for over 4 decades, 40 years and plus of friendship, right? Would have seen before, after, during. And I go through and balance with the fact that I can be as open to them. They are my support. I don't have to worry about being judged. I can be real with them. I can text them at 4 a.m. I mean, 2 will answer, 1 will not. 1 is not a morning person, and I get it. I know her, right? But I have support in that regard, not large support. You're talking about, there's a gospel song that talks about all this world need is a few good men. I have a few good women in my corner that I can call, that understand that this is my life. I don't need to make an excuse. This is the faces and this is the journey I'm on. And they have just accepted that journey and they show up, right? They show up in tangible ways. And of course, I cannot say about prioritize without mentioning my husband. In this world when there are many things that are going AY, I mean, my husband and I are friends. So we can also talk and I can tell him, this is not working. This is working. In fact, I'm here communicating with him now about I'm supposed to be going for my child at 3:30 and I know I'm supposed to do it, but I'm here now and you are here, but you are driving and listening, right? So it's doing that kind of negotiation. It's having the space, the freedom to be me. And to honor that today I might need plenty, tomorrow I may not. And that's okay because the women that I have get it. The women and the support I have get it. My husband gets it as well. So that's how I navigate, but not balance. I have never balanced this life.
So before David responds, I really think it's important to just highlight some of the things that you said for those who are out there who are providing care and really they're going through and having the challenges. The idea about giving self, and really it's about grace and allowing yourself to be tearful and to cry. And seeing tears as a form of healing, as a form of soothing is the word you use, which was beautiful. So I thought that was wonderful. The idea of having a support network is extremely important, that that at whatever time of the day that a particular person in your support network can provide the listening ear, can provide an advice or whatever, that you have that supportive network. And it's really important when doing this job.
Sharon, you're talking about prioritize. Let me mention something here. Letting go of expectations.
Yes.
Right? For a long time, I struggled with that. This person should, this person ought, this person must. And I had to make peace with that I had to let go of expectations if I was going to ever live a fulfilling life. It is what it is. That has become a mantra of mine. I'm letting go of the expectations. This is my life. I can't apologize for it. I can't do it over. I'm doing the best I can. And I'm letting go of expectations. And that's also a way of navigating the priority. This is what it is. I have to do what I have to do. I have to move through this life with this reality. And again, the word grace.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. David?
Right. Indeed. The balancing aspect, right? You have to find time to be the protector for your parents that are aging. And, as Arna rightly said, at any given time, you could get a call. But the support network that you have around you is very important so you don't reach to a point of burnout. luckily as well, I have a wonderful and supportive wife. And just as how Arna would say, hey, you know, her husband is listening and they have to go and get the kids, he would jump in. It's the exact same scenario that can play out in my household, right? In the sense that my wife may need to respond to something and I may not necessarily have the time. And this can concern either my children or our parents, right? But luckily, I also have siblings and they also contribute. So they form a part of the supportive network, especially for my mother, right? And she can call on either of us because, you know, her love was distributed equally. So we all feel a sense, and it's not necessarily of obligation, but it's this desire. I'll put it more down to a desire to want to to want to give back to her. In a sense, it's like you're so appreciative of what she's done for you and what you've seen and the sacrifices that she had made for me personally as a single parent mother. You know, is spectacular. And you know, sometimes you don't even think that you have enough life to demonstrate that level of gratitude. You know, sometimes you feel as though you're not even communicating as much as you think you should to express how much you're appreciative of the opportunity to can give care to my mother, right? And the demands come on both sides, but most importantly, they do come on the side of my children. You know, they have to be places. And, you know, it's a more structured approach with the children. You know, they get up, you have to ensure that they're properly fed. You know, you emotionally support them if they had a bad day. You know, the challenges that come up with children interacting with each other at school, with the parents, ensuring that, you know, they have lunch, the snacks, the food, everything is prepared. So that in itself, in the midst of your job requirements, your day-to-day maintenance of the household, right? Those things you have to become very organized. So within this sandwich generation experience, you find that um you would discover new things about yourself that you didn't even know exist, right? You know, you realize that, wow, I didn't know that I was so resilient. I could put up with all of this. And you realize that you're more adaptable, more flexible. And sometimes the experience of being a sandwich in a sandwich generation is that um, you become more organized because being organized in the early part of my career was a challenge for me personally. And I've seen how making the effort to be organized at home spilled over into my workspace. And I'm grateful for that because if not, you know, things can go haywire quite easily. And then that is the next set of stress and emotions and things to deal with, which, you know, if you make the effort to be organized in the first place, it can allow things to play out quite smoothly. So all in all, yes, striking the balance is important, but we have to not neglect ourselves, you know. So we have to do those things to make sure, say, you know, we are present and we are capable. Because if, you know, being at this stage in our lives, you know, we are, I would say, prime physical form. You have to ensure that you don't get drained. Self-care is important, both mentally and physically. So it's just striking that balance with self and with others. Um, it, you know, it does have its up and downs, but, you know, beyond that, it's something that, you know, for the most part, you ask God for grace and for the strength. Anything that you find yourself trying to do by yourself too much, then, you know, it's time to call on God to give you the support that you need, which, you know, He is willing and capable and having abundance to give, you know. And then because of that grace now, you have more in your grace tank and you're capable of giving out. So that is how, you know, you keep and strike that balance, because you have to make sure that you yourself are present and in the correct frame of mind to make the right decisions for the future of your children, right? And just as, you know, your parents, the time that they're here with us, you want to make the right decisions where they are concerned as well, where it requires you to make a decision. So yeah, that's how I view the balancing act, you know. I appreciate it, you know, you have to face these challenges head on and take them on. And, you know, depends on how you put it in the mind, you know, can really have an impact. But knowing you have the supportive network around my siblings, my wife, right, it really goes a very far away. And yeah, that's how I kind of get it done. I can't say it's by myself. No man is an island. So I must admit that there are people in my life that support me in this cause.
It's interesting when you look at the literature around caregiving. Oftentimes you'll see the more negative aspects of caregiving, right? And you know, they talk about the burden, they talk about the problems, you know, the stressors and so on. And for both of you, you've really come from a space of love. You're not shying away or scathing over the fact that, yes, these are the realities. There are days when it's challenging. There are days when I have to give myself grace. And yes, I'm stressed at times. Yes, you know, sometimes the answers aren't there, right? So I need to lean on someone else. And really, that's the other message that we would want our audience to walk away with, that you're not alone, right? So whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a friend, and even when the times when you think you're alone, then there's prayers, right? For those of you who lean on prayer or have some form of spiritual development, or that will help you in helping you to make through each day. And then, you know, there's also about rest, right? Things didn't quite go as well today, so allowing myself to rest. You know, this whole idea around maybe asking someone else, and I repeat it again, it's very, very important as caregivers that we allow ourselves to have some respite. I need to walk away. You know, we get calls, myself and Miss Latty, from caregivers who are saying, I can't do it today. I just can't do it today. And so we say to them, is there a way for you just to step outside and go outside and breathe, right? So even in the moment, as you are dealing with the stressors, that you're able to take a moment to take care of yourself, right? To go outside and cry, Arna. Okay, and to relieve whatever it is that you're going through, that you allow yourself that space and that time to be able to do that.
Sharon, it's important for me to say this. I hear you talking about, and I said that I have support. But Sharon, sometimes you are it. Most times you are it. And I would love to say you can get a respite. But there are people here today who, some of us don't have that luxury. You can't step away. This is it. This is it. Even if you are not there physically, you are doing something. If I am to step away from my home that my mother is living in with me, for example, if I'm carrying my kids and my family and we're going somewhere, appreciate, Sharon, that takes a whole level of organization. I am a CEO, I'm a secretary, I am chief financial planner, I'm the organizer, I am the project manager. It takes details to even get that walking away. And I have to say that, Sharon, because, you know, so context, you're talking about, I am here, I am it. You have persons who say they are your support. And this may not necessarily be my reality, but you are on the ground, which that is my reality. I am here. But they say they are supporting and they are from afar. And they are doing the best they can. But in doing the best they can, it's annoying, it's interfering, it's not helpful. And, you know, persons might say, where is Arna going? but I have to honor that journey as well, because they will say, the doctor will say, this is the medication 3 times a day. But that medication for that week is making your person a little drowsy. They can't talk to the person on the phone. So here what they're instructing you to do, reduce the medication. Or, you sure you go to the best doctor? Why don't you carry the person said they have a back issue. Can you take the person to go and do an x-ray? They are not there. How about come in? Instead of issuing the instruction, take a plane, come. Because sometimes, Sharon, what you need as a caregiver is exactly what you can't get. You need to not have to organize, to not plan, to not make the schedule, to not pick up the prescription, to not make the doctor's appointment, to not take the 3 hours out of your day. Sometimes that's what you need. How about driving? How about I am coming and you say you're driving the car for me to carry me? Those are things, Sharon, that, you know, some persons don't understand. And I give you another example. In the whole business of caregiving, and some persons say, oh, I'm coming to look for them. And I want you to come and look, because part of caregiving, especially for my journey, after a time, people forget my mother. They forget. You go on with your life, but I can't forget. She's with me. And I'm glad she's with me, because she gets to experience things that perhaps she couldn't have, right? Being with me, she hearing the noise, it's stimulating her, all of that. But then persons that are coming to look for her, great. I want you to come. I don't want her to be forgotten. But what do? You show up and don't ask the schedule. Sharon, schedule important for persons who are aging, especially my mother. They have a time that them sleep. Don't interfere with it. If you're caregiving for somebody who has dementia, don't come at sundown. You want to get a totally different person, or who I see at that moment in time. When you come at a different time, you're seeing a different person. You're going to say to me, no, but, oh, you said person not recognize me. But you're not there. You don't come and spend a day. You come for 15 minutes and suddenly you're telling me to rearrange the whole schedule because you come for 15 minutes and you know what you're doing. Or again, you're abroad and you're issuing so much instructions, but you're not here. You're not here. You don't understand what it takes to pull away from your day to even something, Sharon, as simple and as needed as going to the doctor. You know, it's so many things that come with that kind of organization, Sharon, that, you know, as we talk about it, I'm not just, I mean, my own situation is absolutely unique, Sharon, and I walk in that light, I walk in that reality that my caregiving is absolutely different because I know that it's a little different, right? She's totally dependent on me, but I also have, and I hold space for those persons of my friends who have mommies, fathers with dementia and all of that. When you come and you're saying that you are coming for 15 minutes, can you bring dinner? Can you bring dinner? Can you bring some KFC? I mean, everybody loves fried chicken on a particular kind of day. How about going to the supermarket? Can you bring some groceries whilst you're coming on this 15 minutes journey? How about asking the appropriate time to come? Those are little things, Sharon, that make such a big difference. You know, and as for all the doctors who didn't go to school and they're telling you what the best thing is, but they're never present in that doctor's office. Those are the things, Sharon, that, you know, again, the conversations of caregiving, those things are very absolutely important to me.
And so I am one of those, I say caregiver from afar, because my brother, my sibling, my sister at first was caring for my mom, and now my brother is in Canada. And so in every way, I try not to dictate how things should be done. You know, it's trying to find a space to show up, right? So coming up during a holiday and allowing my brother to be able to have some break. And even with that, it takes me a day or two or a couple days just to get to adjust to that daily role, right? The person who's actually there having to go through all of the experiences and things. You know, compared to, yes, if you're from a distance, and yes, you can provide some emotional support, but you're not there on a day-to-day basis. So it's a lot different. And I like the fact that you talked about also of, yeah, if you're going to show up, did you ask me if there's something you can bring? You know, is there, you know, what's the best time, right? As opposed to just showing up and then not engaging. And then not engaging, right, in the process. I know we are at the end. We've run out. This is such an important conversation that needs to continue because there's so many people out there that's caregiving, that's providing care to families, and they don't have the space that's available to be able to process and share and to talk about this topic. So I know that we've had some comments that have been shared in the chat. People are agreeing with you, Arna, you know, and also for David, you know, saluting the role that you're playing, acknowledging the work, that it's not easy. So we so much appreciate that you've taken the time and that I know you're supposed to be on your way to pick up your children.
No, Sharon, I mean, no, I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
The husband jumped in.
And there it is. She has support. Please do not, please for our audience, please remember to complete the survey because it's important that we get your feedback. We thank you very much for showing up here. Arna and David, I pray that you will continue to do this good work that you're doing and that you will always be able to give yourself grace and pat yourself on the back, even if nobody else is doing it, right? And that support will always come. And, you know, the belief people say, well, you're going to be rewarded. Well, I pray that your reward will come while you're still walking on the earth. That your children, as David said, he was able to now emulate what he saw and what you're doing, that your children will emulate what you're doing.
Correct.
So this is what I would say to you. Thank you for your openness with sharing.
Sure.
And teaching the audience and helping others who do not have this opportunity to be able to share their experience. And I think we're going to be coming back with this topic.
No problem. And I mean, I want to also thank Arna as well, because you have opened my eyes to, the future and, you know, just the experience of someone altogether, a totally different experience. I've never heard someone really express with such passion, you know, the true and real experience of caregiving and so on. So, you know, I really appreciate you speaking so openly, Arna, and opening my eyes to a next dimension altogether, you know. So thanks a lot for that experience.
Before I say anything, Sharon, I think Dr. Joe is trying to get your attention in terms of if you have any questions. And yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little bit more youthful with the technology.
With the technology.
Okay. So I'm yeah, Dr. Joe is trying to reach out to our David. So
okay.
I am
so again, okay, so let me be formal. Thank you for tuning in.
Wait, but Sharon, let me just say, I mean, for David, thank you.
Yeah.
thank you as we hold space for each other, in this kind of thing, because it does do the different dimensions, right? Sharon, I think Joanna is asking if you wanted to take questions, and perhaps if we could give some advice for persons who are in the audience who are caregivers.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because I wanted to be able to at least leave some resources, and I'll put it in the chat as well. For those of you who are caring for older parents, we have the Mona Age and Wellness Center on campus, and they provide a lot of education around caregiving, particularly caring for older adults. We also have our Dementia Care Network, and we'll put a contact there for you. I wanted to just highlight also, there's an upcoming webinar by the Davos, DAVOS Alzheimer's Collective, and they're going to be doing a workshop on September 29th, where they talk mostly about Alzheimer's, but again, around caregiving. So just before we leave, are there any questions that burning questions that individuals in the audience may want to have us address? We're getting a lot of big up Arna and David in the chat. Any questions? I think I missed, there was one person that had her hand up that we missed. Let's see, she took it down.
I think she took it down, but it was Alison Fong.
Yes. All right, so if there are no other questions, I will just put the links in the chat.
So Sharon, I think Joanna wants us to kind of give some advice.
Oh,
David could share some tidbits of how to survive the story of caregiving.
David? Oh, we can't hear. You're muted, David. You're still muted.
So whilst David gets unmuted.
All right, go ahead. I finally got it, but go ahead.
I don't know, Sharon. I don't know. I like to be honest, especially with this topic. If you are in the audience and this is something that you have to consider, and perhaps will be in the next 5 years, begin with as much information as you can about the diagnosis. Arm yourself with information. So like for me, there is no guideline for me really. But I tend to kind of see what is happening, and I research and I put things and just put things in perspective and what she needs. And like when she needs rails or redo the bathroom, that you have to consider, can a wheelchair just go straight into the bathroom? As we age, we need to ask ourselves those questions too. Are we living in an upstairs place that we can't reach upstairs? Is our bedroom up there? Is the bathroom kind of accessible? So I've done a lot of accessibility kind of resource, and kind of did the whole navigation, how to get things to lift her, that I don't have that burden. Because those who know me, I'm a little tiny, and my mother is about 3 times my size. So you have to think about those things long and hard. You have to look squarely at the situation with emotions, but with facts. Can you manage? This is not something that there's a book. So bear that in mind as well. The journey changes. Be open to that. If you're rigid, you're gonna have to get a little help with that rigidity, because it's not a rigid journey. It goes up, it has its highs, it has its lows. Yeah, I mean, I think I need to say, Sharon, that whilst you are caring, you are living. And you have to make a decision if you are going to suspend your life as you care, or are you going to live your life as you care? You know, my decision has been, no matter how expensive it has become, I'm living life as I care. And that's how I've approached life. This journey has taught me that I am, you know, if honestly, if resilience was a person, I think I would be beside it, you know, because it has made me so resilient to other things that has happened in my life, right? I am a warrior. I'm a fighter. I'm a quiet fighter. So I'm very reserved kind of person, but I am a quiet warrior, and I'm going through life like that. You know, this is what it is, but I am going to live life. And appreciate, if you're going to do the caregiving, that there are points in which you are going to have the stress. And for me, I'm on the side now where I am living and I'm choosing to thrive. You know, I'm choosing to thrive. I'm choosing to be kind. I'm choosing to be gentle. I'm choosing that when I engage with people, I don't know what burdens they're carrying. I don't know how thin of a thread they are being held up. And I'm being kind. And if I can't be kind, I'm going to be quiet. So take those and, you know, as you journey through the caregiving space.
Beautiful, powerful, as somebody said in the chat. Beautiful. Live your care. I love it. I love it. David? David, I'll just add, somebody you know, made the point about the fact that you're a male. So having a perspective from, you know, from the male's perspective.
Well, I mean, the points would still be similar to some extent. My advice would be to give yourself some grace, set realistic expectations from the start. You have to recognize that you won't be perfect, because no one is. And we have to prioritize self-care, because ultimately you cannot pour from an empty cup. So, you know, open communication is very necessary with my family, you know, including my children. I try to be very open in my communication with them. I don't hold back anything from them. So, you know, some of the elements of your own parenting when you were growing up that you think that you could improve on, like communication with the children. I tried my best to communicate with them, be there for them, right? So it does consume a lot of time. You know, one is 13, one is 7, and one is 5. So all of that energy, you know, can be draining, and just the activities that surround each of them, and to be there for each of them all the time, you know. As a male, I didn't have the opportunity of, you know, growing up with my father, right? So there's this I don't know, this significant urge, willingness, you know, just to constantly be there, be this presence, to hug my children, to kiss them, to embrace them, to show them some of the love that, you know, from a father's perspective, that I wasn't the recipient of, right? So beyond that, you know, it had a next level of intention behind, you know, prioritizing my relationship with my children. Every moment is a moment that I'm grateful for, you know, the opportunity that I have. And yes, you know, well, I won't hesitate when I need help, because the same parents are there. My in-laws, they're very active as well, and we also care for them, because sometimes, you know, we want a break, and, you know, I have to maintain my marriage. And part of my marriage is having private time and quality time with my wife. But sometimes you find that, you know, it's very difficult to kind of go and do something together by yourself. So these are the opportunities that the parents take, and, you know, they would watch the children for us and keep them for some time, because they know that, you know, navigating parenthood in this time is indeed a task. So my advice really is, you know, ask for help when you can. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. As a matter of fact, it's a sign of strength. Don't be afraid to show your vulnerability. You know, you always seek out little moments of joy and connection, both with your children and your parents, any opportunity that you can. You have to balance both worlds, right? And at the end of the day, you will have the tough days. But one of the things that will embolden you is the fact that the experience itself strengthens you. And, you know, Arna said that she's a warrior. Warriors are made through situations that they've been through. So,
You okay, David?
sorry, I thought my computer just locked on me a while ago, so I just unlocked it. Sorry about that. Right, but I'm back. Right, so in essence, just understand it's a tough, you know, as Arna said, warriors are made, you know, it comes with being experienced, going through the tough times. It strengthens you, hardens your skin. And, you know, if you have the blessing of being a caregiver, I see it as a blessing because sometimes it's really, you know, it's caregiver, not care receiver. And ultimately, it's always better to give than receive. That's what the good book teaches us. And there's a benefit of giving, a double benefit. One, you, the giver, feels a certain level of, you know, satisfaction in the fact that you're impacting someone else's life, right? And just to see the delight that you can bring on someone's face just by talking to them, giving them some advice, you know, helping them with resources, helping them to do something around the yard. It's very important, right? So, you know, you just balance in both worlds and see how best you can. Don't neglect the relationships, such as your marriage if you're married, right? And don't neglect yourself because you cannot pour from a empty container, right? So you have to be filled. And once you take that approach, I believe that you would have the ability to push through, and you'd be proud because you're preserving, you're setting the future. It's very important. It's a future investment, but at the same time, you're preserving the dignity of your parents. You know, supporting them in whichever way they can, and you just embrace the opportunity.
Sharon, you see that word that David used when he's talk about being a warrior and being strong and strength? David, I don't like those words.
Oh man,
I didn't think you was going to agree with you, David.
Sharon, I feel every time I've been called strong, it's because I need to do something else.
Right. Yeah,
I don't know
there's
if
responsibility that comes with that.
yeah, so I'm just gonna say, you know, there are some of us like I don't want to be called strong no more. I don't want it no more. I'm rejecting that I'm strong and that I have strength and I can go through. I mean, I know I'm resilient. I've proven it. I've lived it. But please keep your strength because you're giving me something else to do.
Yes.
You know, there's this, I mean, David talks about having young children and you have surface pressure. You know that song from Encanto? I'm the strong one. I'm not nervous. You know, I'm as tough as the crust of the earth is, you know. But, you know, sometimes the strong one, you buckle underneath the weights of expectation, right? So, you know, take time with the strong one, them, you know.
So let me just highlight some takeaways, right? Important that you learn about if you're taking care of someone with a diagnosis, any condition, right? That you learn, you learn as much information. Education is important. Even in terms of just strategies. Continue to educate yourself. If you have family support, if you have friend support, it's important to sit and talk and to articulate some of the things that you may need. Arna brought up the fact about planning for the future. So really kind of thinking trajectorily, you know, what's going to happen? Am I going to need a ramp? Am I going to need, you know, to make sure that mom or dad is on the first floor if you have 2 levels, you know, planning ahead with your family and making sure that you're thinking futuristically. And then, you know, guys, we always say that, well, Arna doesn't like the idea of, you know, this warrior person. And really it's about, I can't do this anymore. And so there are also, and Arna, you're probably not going to agree with me, there are places where we can say, I'm going to bring in help, right? If I have the resources, you know, there are those who are caregiving who've had to make the decision to put their loved one in a care home. So I have to say that that option is there and that option is available. Okay. So I'll just leave it at that there is that option as well. All right. Are there any other questions or comments that anyone wants to share? Okay, so with that, again, thank you to our audience. Thank you very much to David and Arna for taking the time, and especially the extra time to stay on and continue this conversation. Thank you for tuning in, our audience. Thank you so much for this episode of participating with us in Threads of Change, Empowering Social Work podcast, where social workers come together to inspire, to empower and effect positive change. Thanks to our guests, again, David and Arna, for sharing and providing this space, for allowing us to hear their experiences and to learn from them about what they are going through. I wanted to big up our team, our podcast team, Shamina Blackwood, Rashad Ford, Camila Brown, Dana Campbell, Tessie Scott, myself, and Dr. Joanna Simpson. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all of our treasured community for joining us and sharing your views. Your feedback fuels our mission to spread awareness and create positive change. If you have any questions, stories, topics you would like for us to cover, reach out to us and let us know through social media. And again, thank you so much. We'll continue to provide this podcast. So until the next time, thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a beautiful
Thank you as well. Thank you
day.
for the opportunity. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh.